it's Ivy Slater, and you're listening to Her Success Story podcast, a show where gutsy businesswomen share their success journey. Hi, this is Ivy Slater, and welcome to today's episode of Her Success Story. So for those of you who just are tuning in this time of year, the holiday season, aren't you lucky? We are in our nonprofit series, and it is one of the most meaningful, important times for me in the year that we spend the weeks between Thanksgiving and New Year's talking to leaders in the nonprofit space, learning how we can contribute, make a difference, show up for others. When I say contribute, I'm not always talking about money. I'm talking about ourselves, to show up, to support people in various areas. Actually, just last night, I was at a fundraiser and I was meeting amazing people. Forget about the money that was raised, that, yes, was wonderful, but it was the connections in the room of how people can help and show up for others. And that's what this is about. And that's why this nonprofit series is always so important to me. So today I have an incredibly spectacular woman. Suzanne Stone is a graduate of Texas Christian University and a native of Louisiana. Yet she's had a career that she's been in many parts of the states, from television in Illinois to a basketball coach in the New York community, on to being part of the Susan B. Komen Foundation, to now being CEO and president of Livestrong. Suzanne is a person to learn from, take into your community and take into your hearts. And Suzanne, thank you. I know your schedule's busy. Thanks for showing up today.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ivy, so much for having me. It is an honor to be here for sure.
So share a little bit. You've had an interesting career trajectory. I love that because it shows so many of us that where we start is not where we need to end. So can you share a little bit of your career and your backstory?
Yeah, absolutely. It is definitely not a straight line by any stretch of the imagination. And very little of it was planned. Very, very little of it was planned. When I was growing up, the thing that became passionate about, even as a young child, was storytelling. And I didn't understand that as a kid and even in high school. But what I knew that I loved was I was watching Jane Pauley and Charles Kuralt on the
I
screen.
remember.
Yep. And I was like, that's amazing. How do they make me feel something? Even younger, going to see Star Wars like 19 times as a child. And, back then your parents would just drop you off the theater, like, see you, call me on the payphone. You're 9. Like, that's what we did, feral children. But feeling something when somebody related a story through words and photographs was really impactful for me. So I went to school to do radio, television, and film. Um, I told my parents when I was in high school that I wanted to quit school and move to LA because I wanted to produce, write, direct film. That's what I wanted to do. And
Okay.
yeah, and they said no. I don't know why. But so LA didn't happen for me, but I ended up working in the television field for many years, and it taught me a ton. One, it taught me what really hard work means.
True.
Showing up at 8 a.m., leaving at 8 p.m., 9 p.m. every single day, 7 days a week, because that's what you did. The grind of youth that you somehow are able to do that we don't really
Which is
successfully do
amazing.
today. Yes. I got to Chicago. I was still in the television field. I was working at a production company, and I wasn't happy with the job. I loved doing the things, but I wasn't happy at this particular job. And so one day I took the train in. If you've ever lived in Chicago, it's similar to New York, right? You just commute everywhere on public transportation. And I took the train in. I remember the boots I was wearing because they're the first pair of cowboy boots that I ever bought. They're like my comfort blanket. I still own them. I wear them on very big and important days. You'll see me in them. And I walked into my boss's office after my hour-and-a-half commute, and I quit. This is not a normal procedure for me, but I just quit. I gave him my badge and I
I
walked
was
back
done.
out the door and got back on the bus to get back on the train. And on the way back, I was reading the want ads
Right.
and found the job at Naperville Community Television outside of Chicago, where for the first time my desire to tell stories intersected with nonprofit. And I didn't know what that was at the time. I'm in my mid-20s. But what a fabulous experience it was to teach other people a skill that I didn't realize was important or marketable, but public access was the mother of YouTube. And for the first time, people got to create content for free at no cost and put it on the air, and other people saw it. It was wild, wild and crazy. Certainly the Wild West back then, but it was a lot of fun. Moved to New
So
York.
how did that shift your career trajectory at that time?
Oh, big time. Because for the first time, I gave back. Initially, it was this give back of knowledge. Like again, I was so young, and my parents are lovely people, but I had philanthropy wasn't a part of my life growing up.
I get it.
And so I wasn't volunteering. I didn't do those things, but I was teaching people, and they would come back to me with gratitude. Thank you for teaching me this. This was so great. And then they would go on their own trajectory after the class was over and I had taught them, and I continued to support them in what they did. But they created other things for their life, right? That changed their lives. And
And
that
and
feeling
now
was,
here's another learning lesson, another light bulb that goes off of
mhm,
seeing the impact in others.
yeah. When you intersect with them in a positive, meaningful way, and that impact goes far beyond what you ever see. Like you won't necessarily know what you have done or how you have changed their life by doing something that, at least for me at the time, still today can be relatively small. And it really does make an impact. And so it was a very early life lesson in changing the way that I think, or that I was thinking. I took that to New York where,
Right. So I was going to ask, so how did these early lessons,
mhm,
and because it's always interesting, people sometimes don't realize that the early things in our lives, our careers, and I'll say our lives also, and our careers, how that plays into what we end up doing later. And all, truly, they have that coin phrase, transferable skills. But people don't really realize, like, these are transferable skills. Like,
mhm,
how did all this stuff early on lead you to where you are today?
I learned compassion, empathy, empathy for people who don't look like me, don't sound like me, didn't have a background like mine. That was through coaching basketball, which was
A whole nother story.
a whole nother story on why and how that happened. I learned that for me, it was less important about people recognizing that it was me that made the decision, or me that taught the class, or me that it was not important. What was more important for me, and how I even today go to sleep at night feeling pretty good about the day, even if it was a really tough one,
Right.
is that I know all of the things that I do in a single day make an impact on people in a positive way, and I will never meet them and they will never know my name. And I am so great with that, because that is the only way I believe you can scale impact. The only way that you can take the skills that you have learned through your lifetime and share them with others in a way that will be a seed for them, will be a little mini lesson for them that they will take, and it will impact and change their lives too.
You've been president and CEO of Livestrong since the beginning of 2023.
Mhm.
How did that come about? Was this, obviously, when you said, like, I was sitting on the train looking at the one ads, I have that picture in my in my image, right? To have that photograph actually, because I remember doing that, but a lot of people don't. Um, so how did this occur for you? Where did it come from?
It came when I got back to Texas from New York. I was working for court appointed special advocates.
Okay.
I was volunteering, and I was working there, and then somebody went on maternity leave. and they asked me if I would just take this part-time job, like, could you just fill in? That's hilarious. That doesn't
Famous last words. Just do a little bit of this.
just for a little, just for a minute, just till she comes back. And so I was around 40 years old. So this was about 15 years ago or so, something like that. And I, of course, didn't stop working when she came back from maternity leave. And
Surprise, surprise.
yeah, and what I realized in that role, I went to my executive director and I was like, I am not making a difference. I'm not making a difference. Like all I'm do I there has to be something else here because I'm sitting at 6-foot tables and passing out brochures and talking about what we do, but that's not changing anybody's life. And I won't bore you with the whole internal story, but essentially what I learned and what I came to on my own with the impact of others and that whole history of, coming to that is, wait a minute, what I can do to have more impact is we need more people. So I'm going to go out and find more people who are just as passionate about this topic as I am. And I'm going to bring them here. I'm going to train them so that they can go do the work that I can't do as one person alone. And I was successful at that with the team. Like it's not just Suzanne doing it, but I did lead the effort. And it was the first time I understood how to scale impact. I watched it happen. I watched people get emotional when they connected with the stories that we told really well. At that point in my life, I said, I want to do more. And I just kind of kept that. I want to do more, meaning I want to have more impact. I want to scale it. I want to keep, how big can I go? How
How
much
big can
impact
I
can
go?
I
I love
have?
it.
And
Yeah.
about 5 years ago, I had the opportunity. I was intersecting in the Austin community with the then CEO of Livestrong, and I was leading Komen in the greater Central and East Texas, so this big swath of
Right.
humanity in Texas and impacting women all across the Southeast area there. And he offered me the chance to scale my impact and work on the mission side at Livestrong. And so I took that opportunity because I could go from Texas and scale that impact to the globe.
So I want to ask because I will out myself. Um, I knew about Livestrong for years, and then it kind of fell
Yeah.
off the popularity. I hate to say this in nonprofits, and that stinks. Um, but it wasn't as talked about. It wasn't, and unfortunately, let's be real, we all know somebody with cancer or who has had cancer, has beat cancer, is dealing with cancer and working in the journey for success there. It's not a far reach in any of our worlds to know someone. So where is Livestrong today and what can we start knowing about it again?
You're absolutely right. 2012, I call it the divorce. So in
I love
2012, yeah,
that.
I think a lot of people
I
can
love
relate to
Suzanne.
this.
I love you. You are so real and upfront. Yeah,
Oh,
but we had the divorce,
we did. We had a divorce. So we got divorced from Lance.
right?
And, he got the bike and we got the house.
That's fine.
That's how that happened. And in oftentimes with divorces, both personal, from a both personal, which I've certainly unfortunately been through myself, but through divorce, you learn a lot. And oftentimes there's both members of that party, of that separation, that split, whether it's corporate or personal, are quiet in recovery. And that's what happened with Livestrong, right? So there's how do you speak about it? How do you talk about it? All sorts of opinions on how to move forward. But cancer does not care and did not care then who Lance Armstrong is today or was then. The organization was never about Lance. However, from a popularity standpoint, that's what people were connecting it to.
He was the spokesperson, so
He
to
was.
speak.
Yeah, he was this ultra famous human. And what he went through was no joke. He wrote the book that started this whole thing, right? It's the title is It's Not About the Bike. And while the organization and the foundation was based on that, right? It's not about the bike. And the work that we were doing had nothing to do with him racing. That's not how popular culture was connecting the two. And also this was really we're not really heavy social, there's no social media at this time. It's 2012, right? This is a long time ago, which is amazing to say. So I look at the date on the clock. Today, so fast forward, when the board gave me the honor of stepping into this seat, I said and continue to say, it's time to step back out of the shadows again. It's time to be loud. It's time to be brave because people who are fighting cancer are brave and we can be just as brave.
Mhm.
And today, what you will find with Livestrong is a louder voice, one that's always been here, but you will also see programs of impact at scale. So programs in your community today, like Livestrong at the Y, something that's been around for a very long time, but we're scaling that now. So you don't have to just live near a Y in order to participate. So the program essentially is you've finished cancer treatment, and that is devastating for your body. The cancer is pretty tough itself,
Right. But
but
the treatment is a lot on a body.
the treatment is a lot on a body, a mind, and a spirit. It is. It is. And so this 12-week program that we created with YUSA, people at Mayo, Cooper Clinic, they all came up with this great program that people could come into the Y, you can still do this for free, take this 12-week program to regain your strength, to feel better. And we know studies tell us that people who are recovering from cancer right after treatment, post-treatment, are 5 times more likely to die in the first 5 years of that recovery if they are not moving.
So the key, if they are not moving.
If they are not moving.
So, it's interesting because I think most people are aware, and I say most, okay, but most people, and our listeners, I'm putting you guys in that most, is body, mind, spirit. You have to be taking care of your body. If you're scaling a business, you have to be, things that are good for you. Listen, I have my ice cream too, but eat overall, eat well, move your body, spirit, take the quiet breaths. If you're a meditator, meditate, take a walk, right? All these things. But it's not really talked about the importance of everybody says, yeah, we can't self-care, 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 but they don't specifically talk about the importance of exercise and moving your body and the impact on that post treatment.
It is so important. You'll see it happening for specifically for breast cancer patients as we move into 2025,
Right.
where oncologists are now making that part of your survivorship plan because those studies are out there, because it's something we intuitively know. But as you come through recovery and you ring that bell, I imagine the last thing you want to do, and I certainly hear this from patients, the last thing you want to do is go walk around the block.
Right.
Some people just say, I just want to rest. I just want to not have those drugs or that radiation, or I'm recovering, I'm recovering, I'm recovering. Moving is so vital to that recovery. For example, I use breast cancer as an example because one, it's
Rampant.
everywhere and it affects.
I happen to know a young lady who just got married under 30 who is going through treatment.
Yeah,
So yes, it is everywhere.
it is everywhere. And so breast cancer specific, when you come out of treatment and the drugs that you're going to take for 5 years, 10 years after to keep that cancer at bay, because one cell can turn into two. It doesn't take many, right? And we don't want recurrence to occur. So no evidence of disease happens, hopefully, for you. At Livestrong, we stay away from the word cure. We go into no evidence of disease, which is the perfect state and exactly where you want to be. But when you come off of that and you are taking medications to help your body, these are great immunotherapies. They're getting better all the time. Um, we're excited for the research that's happening on that side, but that is not our focus. Our focus at Livestrong is how to help you live a really great life today. So you're taking these drugs and they can do a few things. they can make you gain weight. This is a side effect of many of the drugs that you might be on. One in particular, as you gain weight, you now become at risk for diabetes. And we see this happen with a lot of breast cancer patients who are recovering. Lymphedema, so swelling of the limbs starts occurring. It's
Right.
also a side effect of treatment and some of those drugs. It adds to the weight. You become diabetic. Now now you're on insulin. Now you're on other drugs to control your diabetes and your cholesterol is high. Now you have heart disease. Suddenly,
It starts a movement down a path.
yes,
So what I'm hearing you say is by moving your body, it helps maybe not eliminate, but have a better fighting chance to work with a long-term success, a
yes.
long-term recovery.
Absolutely. The friend that you mentioned who's 30 years old, not knowing anything about her, not knowing what her disease state or type is, what I'm guessing, 85% of people who are diagnosed as a adolescent or young adult, so sitting in that 18 to 39 category, 85% of them are going to live 5 years or more after their cancer diagnosis. In fact, most people in that age range today, if they're diagnosed, are probably going to die of something other than cancer. Fabulous. It's
Right.
amazing,
Right.
right? But what is their quality of life going to be?
And
We
that's
don't.
important.
We
You
don't
know,
want them to die of heart disease or have a heart attack.
it's interesting. And I think that is, I wanted to make sure we talked a little bit about because I happen to love. For those of listeners who are just tuning in, don't know much about me yet. I'll say I was a dancer early on. I danced until I was about 22, 23 years old until I blew out my knee. But, so exercise and training is important to me, right? Not only that, I have enough body injuries, right? Blew out my knee, blew out my back at 18, right? I work with a trainer several days a week. You're now have created what a cancer fit for trainers to learn. Can you
Yeah,
share a little bit? Because I think that's taking this to the next level. It's taking it to not just we ought to take a walk and putting it in the why this 12-week program, but now taking it to the even the bigger level. And I love that.
absolutely. So when we talk about impacted scale, part of that, in order to do that, you have to remove barriers. You have to understand where people are. Not everybody lives near a Y. And also, not everybody wants to go to a gym.
Yeah.
No. Some people want to stay in their driveways, whatever it is, or they're going to do it in front of their
Oh,
television.
they're gonna do a Zoom something. They're gonna do, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, what we know, do the fast math based on the 2 million people who just got diagnosed in 2024, 2 million new cases. These are recurrent cases, 2 million new cases of cancer. We're going to need 20,000 trainers to be all across the United States to be able to reach and impact anybody. So that means if you are a dancer, if you are a mom, if you're a farmer, if you're a teacher, and this happens to you and you have cancer, we want to be able for you to jump on our website, type in a zip code. If your zip code is 78704, that's here in Austin, 78704, and up pops 10 people who have been trained in exercise oncology.
Ooh.
Now, this is different than a physical therapist who's gone to years of school, and I do not want to discount that. This is about accessibility so that that same trainer who is working with you, the dancer, is also working with the teacher down the street who's recovering from cancer. And he or she can do that because they have learned through their training Cancer Fit how to manage, deal with, and work with patients who have a very different set of physiological needs. Cancer Fit empowers trainers to go out and change people's lives in their community.
I love that. And I love, the theme of everything you're saying today is scalability. And so much of our business podcasts, throughout the year, we talk about scalability as the CEO, scalability as the business, scalability of what can be done, seeing possibilities, showing up with a what can I do attitude, because Lord
What
knows. we could go on to what we can't do, and we'll be here for hours and hours and hours. But if I could just find one thing I can do today, right?
Yeah.
If our listeners can do one thing for their community, for somebody they know, what would it be?
Hmm. I would say go out and find somebody that is a complement to your skill set. I call them your starfish. Go find more people that are just as passionate about helping this person or this community as you are, but has a different skill set than you. Bring them alongside and go put a meal on a doorstep because you know the person, but he's the great chef. Go fix somebody's car because you know how to rewire the battery, but she knows the person that needs help. Find a partner in not crime. Find a
So the
find
connections that
yes.
pull people together, that come in, so we don't have to know or be all. We don't have to know everything. We don't have to be all or do all.
No,
Right?
no.
We have the ability to be the connector.
Yes. And when you go out and you find like-minded people who are just as passionate about the thing that you want to change in the world, go find them, collect them, then come back. That connection that you talked about right at the beginning, when we started this morning, that is what Livestrong is about. That is what makes impact at scale possible because you and I cannot do this on our own. I didn't get to this role on my own. I'm not going to be successful by myself. I have to put people around me who are smarter than me, who are braver than I am, who see differently than me. And my role is going to be to connect all of them and then all of the dots and lead us through the map.
I love that. Suzanne, thank you for joining me here today on Her Success Story and being part and sharing Livestrong during our nonprofit series.
Thank you so much, Ivy. It's been a pleasure to be here.
And listeners, this is what I say at the end. And so for those who are new, listen well, take a breath, and think about one takeaway, one aha that you took from listening in today. Jot it down somewhere, your phone, a piece of paper, doesn't matter. And then make a decision on one action you're going to do based on that. And that's how we continue to make change and create action. If this was interesting, helpful, if you know somebody that Livestrong can be a good impact for, pass this forward. It has a little square box with an arrow. Send them the episode. Let them hear it and continue to have that ripple effect that we can all do well. I appreciate everybody listening. We're going to say, gee, it's great to listen. It's great to share. I never ask people to donate, but it's not that hard to find $1, $2, $3, $5, $10 and just send it to an organization. If you can do more, that's great. If we each do $10 for the 6 organizations we've highlighted, we have the ripple effect of making an impact. So thank you again for joining me, and see you next time.